because as you guys pointed out, it's been a couple months since we've done this. And we took notes on it, we did worksheets on it, but it has been a while. And you guys said, Ms. Kenagy, can we just have a refresher course? So we're going to review what those are. And then the second part of the goal is to work on solving real-world ratio problems. Now, please remind me, what's special about the 6th grade math standards? What's special about this math test, Anthony?
It's basically a reading test.
It's really a reading test. So when we practice these real-world problems, they're not just going to be simple ratio conversion problems. I'm going to give you guys a chance to look back at the word problems that we were working on and kind of just refresh your mind as to what those look like and what's going to be expected of you. Okay? Because all this week, we're going to be practicing our skills with those word problems so that when you're on the test, you're not even worried about what it's going to look like. Yeah, Kiara.
So, basically, if you are understanding what you're supposed to do, then there shouldn't be any problem with it.
Yeah, so that's the trickiest part of the test is, can you figure out what kind of math you're supposed to do from these problems? You guys, you rock it. You understand how to do the math. But you've got to be able to look through the problems and say, what does it want me to do? The same way that when you did writing prompts, you had to be able to look and say, what kind of writing do they want me to show them? Okay? So, I'm going to bring you guys back to the actual standards. Who remembers what a state standards were? You guys remember what we talked about earlier this year? Okay, so state standards are what everybody in that grade is expected to do. So I said when we were teaching ratios, there's a certain amount of things you're expected to know about ratios. The first one says that you're supposed to understand the concept of a ratio and use ratio language. So let's break that down a little bit. What is a ratio? You can look back through your notebooks. What do we remember about ratios from a few months ago? Ben?
That is one thing put to the other.
Yeah, so you're comparing two different quantities. They usually have something in common, and you're comparing those two different things. What are some ways that I could write a ratio? Chris?
You could put, let's say, 4 girls and 6 boys or something like that. You'd go, you could put 4 and 2 dots.
Okay.
And 6.
4 and then 2 dots, those are corresponding to 6. Okay, so we could do 4 to 6, and that's how we would say it. So remember when it said ratio language? All it means is being able to say 4 to 6. That's another way that I could do it, Kiara.
4 over 6.
Yeah, like a fraction. 4 over 6, or 4 over 6. Taylor?
4, and then you would put 4 to 6.
Okay. And 4 to 6. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to kind of challenge your brains as you're thinking back. Is there a difference between these that are up here right now? Yes or no? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. Can't see no thumbs down. Is there a difference, though, between these things and this? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Can someone explain to me why there's a difference between this and this? Boy.
Because when we wrote the 4 to 6, it, like Chris said, was 4 boys, 6 girls, or 4.
Yeah.
It was something like that, and then when you change it 6 and 4, the girls and the boys are staying in the same spot, but you swap the numbers. So
Yeah, so whatever my quantities are would have to switch. So if this was 4 boys to 6 girls, this would not be able to be 6 boys to 4 girls. This would then have to be 6 girls to 4 boys. You have to keep those quantities tied together. Okay, so this is the first big idea. Let's see if we can apply it a little bit. So can a ratio be simplified? For every 1 girl on the playground, there are 3 boys. What's the ratio we already see there? What's a ratio we already see there, Montana?
3 to 1.
3 to 1. 3 what to what?
3 girls to 1 boy.
3 girls to 1 boy. Let's check it again. One more time.
Oh,
For every 1 girl on the playground, there are 3 boys.
it's the other way around.
Okay, the other way around. Can someone else say it for me just a little bit? Thank you, Marissa.
1 girl to 3 boys.
Okay, there's 1 girl to 3 boys, or 3 boys to 1 girl. Do I care which way you write it? No. If they ask you specifically what's the ratio of girls to boys, which one would you put first? Girls. If they said what's the ratio of boys to girls, which would you put first? Okay. Could you write a ratio if they asked you something like what's the ratio of girls to total students on the playground? Yeah? For this part of the information, 1 to 3, what would you do? For 1 girl to 3 boys, how would you do girls to total students? How would you do that? Point?
1 to 4.
Okay, 1 to 4. Why do you say 4?
Because that when you add up 3 and the 1's 4, so there's 4 people. So
Okay, see, you guys remember a lot more than you thought you did. So now I'm going to read the next part of the question. It says, if there are 12 boys, how many girls will be on the playground? Can I figure that out based on the information I have?
yeah.
Yes? I want you to talk to your table groups, talk to your neighbors. I'm going to call on someone at random. And I want you to tell me, how can I find this out? So, yeah, when we did it this way. So you remember how we did this? So you would want to do that. Okay. So you put 1 to 3, and then over here you put 12 to something. You guys find out what it is. Can you guys do that quick? What do you guys think? Yeah, look back to your notebook. Remember when we did this? Yeah, so you want to compare them. Did you guys get it? Okay. Are you guys got it? Okay. Bring it back to me in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's hear from someone on this side of the room. How could I find out how many girls there would be? 10?
You do 12 divided by 3.
Why would I do 12 divided by 3? Can someone else explain? Krista?
Because you don't know how many girls there really are. So
Okay.
you're doing the 12 boys divided by 3 boys.
Okay, so 12 boys divided by 3 boys. So I would start back with that original ratio that I have, which is 1 to 3. And above it I always write G, B, because that's girls to boys. And my new ratio is something to 12. Do I know what that something is?
I do.
No. I have a question. Now that we're so much farther in the year, when I don't know what something is, what can I put there? Marissa? A variable. So I can put something there. What's a variable that would make sense for this? What's one that would make sense, Kiera?
G.
G for girls, right? So now I have a certain amount of girls to boys. What can I do now to find out? So Ben said divide by 3. Okay. So if I do that, 12 divided by 3, what's the answer that I'm going to get? Kayla? 4. Okay. So when I do 12 divided by 3, I'm going to get 4. So there should be a proportion of 4 here, right? Because this was 3 times 4 was 12. So I should get 1 times 4 is 4. 4. And in fact, what I do get, if I can move this is the ratio of 1 to 3 is equivalent to the ratio of 4 to 12. Okay? So can a ratio be simplified? Yeah, the same way that a fraction can be simplified. We can have equivalent ratios. So let's look at our next idea. Our next idea, and I know you guys can't see this too well, that's okay. We're going to focus on the big idea. Is to understand the concept of unit rate that's associated with a ratio. So if you think back, when we were finding rate and unit rate, a rate is a special type of ratio. It usually compares things like miles per hour, okay? Or laps per minute. When we're doing this, our rate as a ratio, we write the ratio usually in a really specific way. So if there are 3 ways I can write a ratio, I can use a colon, I can use a fraction bar, or I can say 2. Which one do we use for a rate? Go ahead and take a guess. Maddie. Yeah, we'd use per, which is that division bar, right? So when we're doing a rate, and we're focusing on a unit rate, we're getting it down to parts per one. We're simplifying it as much as we can. So if I were to look back here, the problem we just did, 4 to 12 would be a ratio or a rate. 1 to 3 would be my unit rate, because I'm getting it down to a single unit, down to 1. So when we look back here, and we're talking about a unit rate, some unit rates that you'll see that'll be really common would be things like miles over hours, okay? Or it might be something like the price per ounce or pound, okay? But this is the part that you're going to have to figure out. How do you find the unit rate? How do you find the unit rate when you've got a problem giving you something like you paid $10 for 5 pounds of gummy bears? Find the unit rate. That would be a type of problem that you would see. How can I go about finding a unit rate? Because remember, a unit needs to have one of these numbers being 1. Either dollars or pounds. So what could I do there? Kayla?
You can divide each number by 5.
I could divide each number by 5. Why does she say divide each number by 5? How is that going to help me? Because she's right. That is a super helpful thing to do. How's that going to help me? Montana?
Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, and you need to have 1 at 1.
Yeah, so you need to get part of it down to 1. So I can easily get the 5 down to 1 by dividing it by itself. And I know that 10 is divisible by 5, right? So I could divide these both by 5. And I end up with $2 for 1 pound. Okay. What else do we know about the fraction bar? What does the fraction bar represent? Do we remember? What math operation? Joe? It represents division. So this is really saying if I cover up the dollars per pound, what is it really telling me to do? Boy?
10 fifths or 2.
10 fifths, or 10 divided by 5. Right? And we know that 10 divided by 5 is 2. Okay? And can I write 2 as a fraction? How do I write 2 as a fraction? How do I do that, Anthony?
2 over 1.
2 over 1, because it's a whole number. Okay? So you guys know how to do all this. You're really just psyching yourself out. So we're going to talk about one more part, and then I'm going to let you work on it on your own. Okay. So the last one says to use ratio and rate reasoning to solve real world mathematics. So go ahead. Go ahead and grab those papers now that you have in the middle of your Go ahead and look at it. Look at the very top. What does this say that this is? What is this paper? Montana?
End of module assessment task.
Yeah, this is the end mod assessment. So you guys have already done this, but we're going to use this now as practice. And the main reason that we're using this as practice is these are all story problems. Okay? So, let's go over really quickly how we solve story problems. What's the first thing that I want to find out? So first thing I should do with this story problem. What's my process? Hunter? Yeah, I'm going to read it. Am I going to read it through one time? No. Right? Because I might miss something the first time. I might make this mistake that first time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read through it. So let's go ahead and read through it. I'm going to start reading. If I stop on a word, I want you to say it out loud so you're going to follow along on your own paper. Jasmine has taken an online boating safety course and is now completing her end of course exam. As she answers each question, the progress bar at the bottom of the screen shows what
Portion.
of the test she has finished. What does portion mean? Chris?
Like how much of something, like you get